Barbara Ospina joined the U.S. military as a response to al-Qaeda's September 11th attacks on New York and Washington. The 23-year-old wife and mother says she is committed to fighting the war on terror, but she has another battle, the fight for women's rights in Afghanistan.
It's pretty much like night and day when you look at American women compared to Afghan women, but overall, we're all women.
Although the United States military ousted the Taliban in 2001, Ospina says Taliban ideas about women and how they should behave are still ingrained in the country's psyche. Ospina says she hopes to help change that during her tour of Afghanistan.
I would hope that when we leave here in 14 more months, it's a step closer than when we came in. Not for us, but for the Afghan people. Because that's what they want, and that's what I want to help provide for them.
Apache helicopter pilot Sharon Kelly has similar goals. She believes the Taliban must be defeated. She says American forces can help the Afghan people win their battle for basic freedoms.
For me, it's about America, but it's about everybody else too, because we have such an amazing way of life, and we have the freedoms and choices that, granted, we don't want to impart our complete ideology on somebody, but we want them to have the choices and to have the freedom that we do. So, I mean, having women in Afghan free would be an amazing thing.
Afghanistan has always been a traditional, male-dominated society, but women under Taliban rule suffered much more than before. Women and girls were confined to their homes, barred from school. They could only leave their home if accompanied by a male member of family, and they had to wear a burqa. It covered them from head to toe, with a mesh screen over their eyes, their narrow window on the world. That was supposed to change when the Taliban was routed, and some things have. Now women are serving in government and girls can go to school. But Parwin, from the Revolutionary Afghan Women's Association, says not enough has changed. She would only give her first name. She says women advocates are often targeted by extremists, and she blames the Americans for the resurgence of the Taliban and what she says are new dangers for women.
The situation for Afghan women, it's worse than before. We think it's no different between Taliban time and now. This war, it is not war against the Taliban and al-Qaeda, it's war against our people. United States bombing villages, killing the children. And when the people ask them, they say, oh, it is just a mistake and we think there is Taliban. And for this reason, Taliban every day become more powerful.
The Taliban have been regrouping, especially in the country's east and south. The battles between Taliban fighters and the US-led coalition troops have heightened a sense of insecurity. They have also stoked fears that the Taliban rule is on the way back. A growing number of civilians have fled their homes and are displaced inside the country. Maya Emaratunga is from the UN Refugee Agency.
Okay, we've had the international military forces come in, but in fact the situation has got worse in the last 2-3 years, and we are seeing in fact more people fleeing their places of origin. We have so many internally displaced people, IDPs, who have received threatening letters from the Taliban telling them to stop sending their daughters to school. So something as fundamental as the right to education is under attack here.
Afghan political activist Malalai Joiga says the Americans may be well-intentioned, but freedom cannot come from a barrel of a gun.
Maybe this P-52 will bring real democracy, first of all security for us. Today, unfortunately, we do not have women's rights. Women's rights, human rights, these values are not something that someone donates us.
Barbara Ospina sees it differently. She says American troops must stay in Afghanistan so its people know the U.S. will not turn their backs on them. Her husband is serving in Iraq and her 7-month baby is in the United States. She says the sacrifice will be worth it if things improve for Afghanistan's women. Mandy Clark for VOA News, Khost, Afghanistan.